This episode of Small Business Leaders Podcast is brought to you by Adams Lane Photography.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Small Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by the Legacy Podcast Studio in historic downtown Kernersville, North Carolina. And I say historic for a reason, because today's episode has a lot to do with our history in our community. This is my co-host, Audra Adams.
Hi, everybody. Today we are dealing with the history of Winston-Salem, specifically Old Salem. And today in the studio we have Darla Earnest, who is the head of the Moravian Music Foundation. And the things that we are about to get into are just fascinating. So let's start now.
Yep.
Hi, and welcome to you, Darla and Sabrina. Darla is from the Moravian Music Foundation, and Sabrina comes to us from the Moravian Archives. Is that the foundation too, or is that just the archives?
So the archives is separate. We do share a building, the Davis Center, which is located in Old Salem. But
I love Old Salem.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful place to work. We're right next to God's Acre, so it's very peaceful outside. Our neighbors are quiet. But yes, so the Music Foundation holds all of the musical records for the Moravians here in the Southern Province, and we hold all of the archival records for the Southern Province as well.
What is classified as the Southern Province? Like, what does that encapsulate?
So in North America, there are two provinces. There is the Northern and the Southern Province.
Okay.
The Northern Province is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And basically the Southern Province is like Virginia and below, and all the way over to the West Coast, though most of the Western churches are encapsulated into the Northern Province as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, that's just a FYI for me, but
No.
I want to say, too, I was just down in Old Salem a week and a half ago with some of my family that came up from Louisiana.
Yeah.
And it is gorgeous.
It's
Down
one
there's
of
beautiful.
my favorite
I love
places.
it.
Yes.
I have so many pictures too on my phone of some of the buildings and things of that nature.
Yeah,
It's
my
just neat.
kids, they say, can we go to the town, Mama? Can we go to the town? I'm like, yes, of course. And they always just wanted to go to the bakery. They wanted to go to the store. But most of all, they just wanted to be there.
Yes.
It was like this freedom of, walking down the beautiful cobblestones. And if you aren't familiar with Old Salem, viewers and listeners, you need to look it up and make plans to make a trip here to Winston-Salem to learn about the history. And that's really kind of what we're going to dive into today. And that's what Darla and Sabrina are doing here today, because there's so much to get into in here. So first of all, let's start with you, Darla. Give me a little bit of your history as far as how all of this came to be that you're sitting at this table right now. Like, give us where it started and where we are now.
Well, we're so excited to promote the Christmas Fest.
Yes.
And what you had mentioned about Old Salem, it's just multiplied at Christmas time. There's real greenery wrapped around the lampposts. There's just a feeling of old world Christmas that's connected to the Moravians. And so that's what we're here to talk about, because we jointly, the Moravian Archives and the Moravian Music Foundation, put together something called Christmas Fest. You might notice that the words are kind of put together.
Yes.
Because the Moravians did come from a Germanic background.
Mm-hmm.
We are borrowing from the current tradition of the Christmas festivals, the Christkindlmarkt in Germany. And so that's why I'm dressed the way I am in my
Which I
dirndl.
love.
Thank you. From southern Germany, but it's throughout all of Germany. And so this is a huge holiday bazaar. When I tell people that it's in Old Salem, they only think of those few little streets, which will be festive at that time of the year.
Right, but you have.
But this Christmas Fest that we've put on together has grown. This is the third year that it's happened, and it's larger than we could have envisioned, and wonderful, more wonderful. It has everything: vendors, food trucks, live music performances from schools, flute choirs, brass bands, churches, We have, did I mention vendors?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did.
How many vendors do we have, Sabrina?
I think that there are almost 20 vendors of Moravian crafts and local artisans, as well as different churches that will be selling baked goods. So that chicken pie,
Oh, the
Everyone-
Moravian
yeah.
chicken pie.
it's so good. I think about it all year. That will be there.
That's what we do for New Year's.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a great tradition.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
every
it
New
doesn't
Year's.
have to be just Christmas either with chicken
No.
pie. And Santa's going to be there.
Santa will be
Santa
there.
will be there, so that's when you know it's a real event, when Santa's coming. Children's crafts, and
Yes.
we're going to be doing tours of the Archives Vault, which will feature some of those items that I've mentioned from 1753 on that are music and just Moravian related.
So, okay, so I want to get a little bit into that. So, as far as tell us a little bit about, a lot of people don't know this, about how Winston-Salem came to be.
Okay. So without sounding too much like a history lesson, I'll try and give you the
Yeah,
TLDR of
yeah,
it.
that's fine.
So the Moravians came to the Wachovia Tract in 1753. It's the 98,000 acres that basically encapsulates what is for today Forsyth County. That is settled, and there are 3 towns that are primarily set up. So Bethabara, Bethania, and Salem. Salem comes actually a little bit later. And Salem was intended to be a utopian congregation town. They intended this to be the end-all be-all of where they would have their settlements, because Moravians were going around and colonizing different areas and doing
Right.
these mission trips.
Right.
And they chose this area because, one, Wachovia literally means land of creeks, land of plenty.
Didn't know this. I just thought it was on the building for years.
Yep, that is the original
was a
name
bank?
of it. Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
it comes from the ancestral home of one of the Moravian founders as well in Bohemia, as was mentioned earlier.
Oh, we're
So-
going to get there.
Yeah, we're going to get there. So when they settled here, they chose this area, one, because it was a gateway to what was at then the frontier of America. Hard to imagine, but there were wolves and buffalo roaming the area then. Is that not wild?
No,
in my
it
mind,
is.
buffalo
It
were only out
belonged, like,
west.
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But
I'm
things-
going that way, like that's west. I have no idea.
Yeah, so this
Okay.
was the
Maybe.
Wild
Looks
West then, though. This truly was. And it was also a gateway to working with the indigenous communities here,
Oh, okay.
which they had a very large interest in. So all of this kind of comes together into putting all of this tract land grant together. And so then they settled, and then they started working with, at the time called strangers. So anyone that wasn't Moravian was considered a stranger. So there were other European colonizers here at the time. But then they just kind of fell into what we now know as those historic towns. And, you know, whenever you come into Old Salem, you usually see like the first 4 houses, the original homes there. That was actually where the town square was supposed to be. And then they decided to move it a little bit further down.
Yeah.
But that was where people first settled in Salem. And it was settled last out of those 3 towns so that they could actually make it that utopia. So they were clearing trees, making the roads level, doing all this work in advance so that it could be the perfect city. And it was one of the largest cities at the time.
And what is the delineation between Winston and Salem, and when did they come together?
So Salem is established in the 1760s. That's when the first houses are built. And it really comes to being a well-populated place by the 1770s. Now, Winston itself is a separate town up
Right.
until the 1860s.
You're the expert, but
Basically,
You don't have to be completely correct.
well, I don't want to be quoted on this because off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact
It's
date of
18
incorporation.
something.
Yeah, and so they decide to actually incorporate together, and it's really in like the 1920s that fully happens.
Okay.
So it's much later, but the
there
whole
is a hyphen.
yeah, there is a hyphen.
Yes, there is.
and
Still.
that's why there's the
Dash.
baseball game, baseball studio, or
Y'all
baseball
are teaching
studio,
me so much.
baseball
Are
stadium.
you learning? I love
Well, I
this.
am, but I want to interject this because I think it's fascinating because I'm from Louisiana, the south part of Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and so when we first came up here, probably several years ago, we took pictures you brought us down into Old
did.
Salem. We did some pictures down there.
It's like a really selling point for moving here.
Yeah, it is great.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. But even from someone who is not, I live in a very cultural area. I grew up in a very cultural area with the Cajuns and Creole and all of that. Spent a lot of time in New Orleans. So when I moved up here over a year ago, and even prior to that visiting, I began to see Moravian. That was it was. I didn't know what that was, and I saw that on all of these churches. So that just sparks. And what is this? What? And then to visit Old Salem to see all of that. And I think what I like and what we're going to talk about today is the fact that you guys have an organization that you're part of, an archive that preserves that history and shares that history, and you're a part of the music aspect of this, and then these festivals that showcase this culture, this history, which I love that, because then I want to sit back and watch and participate. And not only do I love the chicken pies, but I also love the cookies and everything else. And
The sugar cake.
yeah,
The
sure.
Sugar cake.
I wish they would do it gluten-free. Like,
I think there is some. Don't quote me on
Yeah, I
don't get me excited and take it away.
I think
Like,
that there might
I
be
think-
an off-brand version that could be gluten-free.
I
used to
think
make
there
them
is.
when I was little. With
If nothing else, you need to contact Chris's wife, because she made
Oh.
a cake the other day that was really good.
I just want my little thin Moravian cookies that are
Just need a little
ginger.
taste.
Those are amazing.
Ginger, oh yeah.
Oh, they're so good. Okay, so backstory over here. So this is giving some relevance to where this is happening.
Yes.
And I want to give some space for you to tell us why and how you came to run this. Like, what is your background?
Yeah, you
Where-
obviously love music and you love the
Right.
arts. And
So I want to get into that just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story.
Okay.
We actually, my late ex-husband, we moved here for the Moravian Music Foundation for this job.
Really?
And like you, we were from Southern Alabama. And so we did research on what Moravians were, the same thing. Could we align ourselves with this? And when we started reading about them, we had been so involved with the German culture. We had lived in Germany for many years, and every summer we had lived there and worked there for 2 decades plus. So there were so many things that fit as musicians that aligned with the Moravians' thinking. I love their thinking: in essentials, unity; in non-essentials, liberty; and in all things, love.
Oh, I love
That was
Yeah,
such a
great.
beautiful way of looking at. When she talked about the strangers, I read that they were the only people asked to go on the Trail of Tears with the Native Americans, because they just are such open, loving, warm people, and they live that out. Well, when we came, we were so aligned with the German culture, and we thought, we've got to celebrate this Old Salem. There's the candle tea, which is wildly wonderful and successful.
Yes.
And you get tickets to that, and it's wonderful. We can come alongside these wonderful things happening and bring something to the community that celebrates the Moravians, celebrates the Moravian music, celebrates Old Salem.
Yeah.
And the idea of this Christmas Fest came about. And now it's grown, and there are food trucks, and we're using part of the Fine Arts Center at the Salem College. And we're using the big parking lot, and we're using our own beautiful buildings that we share with the archives, their space. It's now spreading up into other parts of Old Salem. They're giving tours of the provincial offices, which are located there in this big, beautiful building called the Cedarhurst House. They're the Lot 63, this wonderful new coffee shop. I'm giving them a plug right now.
Yeah.
We love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
We love
We
them.
love them. Coffee shop and tap room. They're up until, it's a perfect date night, even before Christmas. Walk around Old Salem. You can stop off at that coffee shop that's there now. They're going to be doing things with us and during the same time as Christmas Fest. So the whole thing is kind of spreading throughout Old Salem. And it's celebrating all the best things about Christmas, about the Moravian history, the love and warmth of the season, the good foods that we keep talking about, and then some, because we're celebrating Winston-Salem, different companies that aren't necessarily Moravian, which is the Moravian way of doing things, being very inclusive of others. And it's just a wonderful experience. I think, were there over 2,000 visitors last year? I expect
Way
if
more.
not double, probably close to double this year.
Did you start this particular? You did.
Yes, my late ex-husband and I did.
You started
and
it.
I was, there on the sidelines and doing the children's tents and late night idea sharing. And so I'm so grateful to see where it's grown, and it's become so much more than even the beginning vision.
Such an
And with people like
accomplishment.
Sabrina stepping in, and the archives joining in, what they did last year was an even better version, and I think this year is even better. It's an event I would want to attend
Right.
and bring. It's family friendly, but it fits all ages. It's from 10 to 5. It's a full, complete day. You can come anytime during that, absolutely free. You just come and participate and enjoy. If you want to kick off, well, it's in the middle of the season. If you want that Christmas spirit, Old Salem and this Christmas Fest by the Moravian Archives and the Moravian Music Foundation will definitely give you the real meaning of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
So going back to you living in Germany
Yes.
every summer, you say?
I
Or-
lived there for 5 years and then every summer for about 27 minus COVID.
So the only European country I've ever visited is Germany, actually. And it was during the Christmas time to where and some of our viewers and listeners don't know, but every town has their own festival.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes, Christkindlmarkt.
Okay.
It's the Christ Child Markt is what it's called, market.
What is it's like a ciderish type. What is
Glühwein.
I love that
Glühwein.
stuff.
The Glühwein. We have had it. We've had versions of that here. We even had the first year kind of a running contest within the foundation, like who's going to make the best Glühwein version. So we were working on that back then. There will be things like that. There'll be cider. There's going to be hot chocolate. I can't remember all the things. And there are vendors there with different wines. I'm not sure if Glühwein is present this year or not.
But we
wait a
need to
minute,
put
wait a
that
minute.
on the thing.
I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at you because you got to go to Germany.
I did.
I had an opportunity to go and I missed out on it. I had an uncle there for several years doing ministry things. He would send me pictures and they were amazing. So what is this drink? Explain to an
I mean,
outsider.
It's like a mulled
mulled
wine.
wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of got like a spicy heat to it because it is warm, but it's got like a warmth that's flavorful.
like chai-ish, but not.
Yeah.
It's just it's its own thing.
Yes.
And depending on the size of the city that you went to was depending on the size of how big their festival was. And like one of them, I guess Frankfurt was huge.
That's huge. Nuremberg is
Huge.
huge.
Yeah. And then I went to Rothenburg, Dinkelsbühl.
Nuremberg's beautiful.
I know that one got me like with
I think it's medieval.
yeah, and the clocks when it comes out and it rotates and does all the things, it's huge.
I'm so jealous.
Well,
Well,
can I-
come to Christmas.
I
Fest.
plan
come to
on
Christmas
that.
Fest.
Great.
Get a taste
It's
of
a
it.
taste
Yeah.
of it, and even what you're wearing right now. Tell us a little bit about what you're wearing.
I'm wearing a dirndl, and it's not a costume. It's a traditional Bavarian dress. This is kind of a modern version, actually. And it was such a big deal living in southern Germany, in Bavaria, that I had lived there for years. And I had known people, and I almost had I had family there, basically. And they said, Darla, finally, it's time. It's time for you to get a dirndl. I had arrived. They took me shopping for my dirndl, and we wear them to specific, special occasions. I would wear them to concerts, and so I will be wearing mine at the Christmas Fest. There will also be people dressed in traditional older Moravian costume there as well, because as we were talking about, there are living Moravians.
Right. I wanted to get to that.
Yeah.
They
This
live-
is not done. I mean, this is still some
It's
of
a
their
living
homes.
and
Yes.
active, denomination, for a lack of, and I am one.
Right.
I have become one. I think it's one of the most beautiful expressions of the Christian faith out there. And, there's so many years that encompass Moravian history and Moravian costume, for lack of another word. But of course, Winston-Salem and Old Salem centers around a specific time period, kind of, sort of. But we're going to bridge all of those. We're going to cover all of those in our Christmas Fest, and you'll see the new and the old, the candles, the Moravian candles. There's a very traditional way that we make candles. We are still making them today. I just did it a few weeks ago.
I would
that
love
will be
to
there.
do that.
You could
They
do
will
that
have a
I've never
demonstration
done that.
at the Christmas Fest.
Yeah.
You know, I think that sometimes when you live in a city all your life, you take for granted what's in the city.
Oh, absolutely.
And like that it's just there. But there's awe-inspiring things around here. And I traveled this country. I traveled a lot parts of the world, not a lot of, Canada, other countries, but European, only Germany. But I always came home to a richness here in Winston-Salem. And I've always been drawn to Old Salem. That's,
Yeah. And it's important, a cultural thing. We're losing that
yes.
in our world today. Everything is just getting all muddled up and mixed up. And I think cultural things like this are important
Yes.
because it brings such richness
Yeah.
to your life, to your being, and to be passionate about it like both of you are. To preserve that. And what you said, I think, is important too. It's a living thing.
Yes.
It's just not dead. I mean, you have history, you have what's going on right now, and you have a future you're looking toward as well.
Yes.
I think that's a very important thing
And
for everybody.
do the Moravians that are living out as they did back then, I mean, for the most part, I mean, there's still some that are walking that way. Am I correct or not?
No, I think what you're asking is, are the historical interpreters there living life like that all the
Or
time?
are there any left that do?
No,
Do-
so there are Moravians that still live in Old Salem, but they wear normal clothes like we do,
Okay.
and they have normal
Just
modern jobs.
like me.
But there are some people that are living in Old Salem full time. So some of those houses that you walk past, it'll say not a house for tour.
Right.
Right.
I
Because
saw several of those.
Yeah, if you walk into that house, it's like someone's living room.
Yes.
And they
Which
might be
is fun.
startled.
Yeah.
But the historical interpreters that are there, those can be people that are Moravian or not, and they have just been educated by the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts in Old Salem Incorporated
Okay.
to showcase all of that.
It's the bakery. The bakery is one of the, the stops. How was that knowledge, do you know, passed down for them to keep doing that? Oh,
This is fun. So as a newer Moravian, these things are very secret. And there's always an internal kind of who has the best going on, who has the best chicken pie, who has the best sugar cookies, who has this. Well, I was so privileged this year at my little church downtown, Christ Moravian Church, to be able to be tasked with making 30 dough balls for the chicken pies.
Oh.
I got a copy of the recipe.
Oh,
And you're not giving it up.
I'm not giving it up. But it is passed down, and they do hold it dearly. I mean, it's not.
Of course.
It's not,
They should.
But they do hold these things dearly, and they really hang on to how it has always been made. And of course, we are, like you said, modern expressions of it. We're all living normal lives. But these recipes are held on for hundreds of years, so that preservation happens. And it literally happens in the kitchens of churches, or mine the other day, with your kids, making them together. We did it together. These are the actual, who knows how long we've been doing it, but
Which I think is a part of, even from a faith standpoint and a scriptural standpoint, that's what the Bible says to do is, hey, pass this stuff down from generation to generation. Just teach your kids. And that's one of the things that's always been incumbent, I feel like, on especially my household. I can't speak for Lamar, but I know he agrees. But you want them to know the wonder behind it. You want them to know the why behind every.
well, we have a
thing.
great example of that. So we're related. Her husband, my wife, her brother and sister.
He's my brother-in-law.
So one of the things interesting within our family is their grandmother. her recipes.
Yes,
And there's a cookbook.
there is. I know
Yes.
Jimmy had a
And we have it in my house.
I know.
And you have it in yours.
I know.
And so that's special
But
because
it's
it's
just-
passed down.
yeah.
That's right.
But also these cultural things that are important because that's a way of life for you and your family are passed along as well.
Yeah, and I
So,
think that things like recipes or different things like that, I don't think that the modern people, we're so busy that we forget to, even if it's something that we do great in our own home, we
Right.
don't write it down anymore.
Right.
My
Right.
grandmother wrote it down. I have her chocolate cake. Like, I know
Right.
how to make her pecan pie and her chocolate cake because she said how to do it.
Yes.
And so I'm getting really convicted right now because
Go
I
write
have
it down.
not done that correctly.
So I do want to say also that the Moravians are excellent record keepers.
Yes, I was just
So-
going to say the exact
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, you have an archive. Who
yeah,
does that?
we
So I think
actually-
that's
Excellent.
fantastic.
Yeah, we have 3,000 linear feet of documents. So if you imagine each piece of paper lined up, 3,000 feet. So it's a lot of things in our archive. And it includes all of those records, the recipes from the original Winkler Bakery that were brought over from Europe. We have all of these things there. Most of them are in German script, which is not just another language, it's a different alphabet. So only 1% of the German-speaking population can actually read and write that. It's quite hard.
How did you come upon this job?
So I grew up here in Winston-Salem. I'm technically from Midway, North
All
Carolina.
right. I lived in Lexington. I
There
was
we go.
born in
Yeah.
Winston, but
Yeah. Everyone was born in Winston, though, because we had to be.
right.
In the hospital.
There was only 2 hospitals.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
so-
brother got to be born at Baptist, but not me. I had to go to Forsyth, and then,
Gotcha.
years later, Baptist started delivering.
Yeah,
again.
now they have a maternity ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in Davidson County, and then I moved away when I was 17 for school, and I lived away for a long time. Don't want to age myself, but it was a while. It's a whole different city to come back to. And so I saw a job that opened up in archival science, and that's what I have multiple degrees in. I was like, you know what? This never happens in my hometown, that a job in libraries with history, with all of this that I have a background in, for that to open up. So it opened up, and I took it and moved back here from Boston. I really miss sweet tea and warm weather.
Oh, Boston.
Right. Boston.
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 Yeah. Yeah, it was so cold.
It
And
was definitely.
so much snubbling,
Still a
shoveling of
beautiful place,
snow.
too.
Yeah, it very
Still,
beautiful.
I love
I mean,
Yeah,
go
it's very
visit
historical.
Cheers and then go home.
Yeah, I'm going back in November, so in a few weeks. I think that'll be before or after this comes out. Either way, I'm going back to visit, and I'm very excited about having a lobster roll and then leaving.
Speaking of lobster rolls,
Oh, what?
Oh,
Lobster rolls will be at Christmas.
they will be
Fest.
at the Christmas Fest.
How does
Okay.
that
So
tie
all you
in?
Northerners, all you Yankees, if you're coming, we have a truck.
You just threw down, man.
I'm telling you, come because.
hey, wait, I'm a Southerner.
so
I love
much.
lobster rolls.
Exactly.
They're great.
But according to people who have had the original, like the real
Yeah.
ones in Maine, that this lobster roll food truck is off the charts, excellent, and well
Call-
priced.
Okay, so hashtag Mr. Chime Time. He is a food reviewer that we need you to come and check that out, Mr. Chime Time, and highlight this festival.
Yes.
Because that would be amazing. There's several food reviewers, but he lives in North Carolina. So I'm going to have you tag him in this and see if he'll see it. And
Yes, and see if he will try all the different. He could do a one-day review of all
Yes.
the trucks and all the Moravian things.
yes.
Give his take.
You
Oh
could
my
do
goodness.
candle tea too, because candle tea is still happening by December 14th, so
But
you
the-
could snag tickets.
They are going fast. I just
Yeah.
had to buy mine. They are
Yeah.
really going fast.
I think it's less than $10 a ticket. Though,
It is.
and that's through Old Salem itself. But you could go to Candle Tea and then come hang out at Christmas Fest or vice
What
versa.
is what is candle tea for those who don't know?
So Candle Tea is a really rich experience. So you get to go into the Single Brothers house at Old Salem, which is right off of Salem Square.
Yeah.
You come in and you get to experience some music. They play music on the giant organ that's in there. You learn about some of the history of Moravians there. You get to have some coffee. It's called candle tea, but that was changed because there was a really high tax on tea. hence the Tea Party that happens later in Boston.
Full circle.
Yeah,
Full circle,
really
yeah.
bringing it around.
Yes.
Well
Comedic
done.
genius over here.
Well done.
They switched it to coffee, but you get to have some coffee. You get to have all of that lovely love feast buns. You get to have the sugar cake. You learn how to make the candles. You go downstairs, and this is where you'll find me on certain days. And the Puts. The Puts is a miniature version of Salem. I say miniature, but it spans
huge.
30 feet.
Yes.
They build it every year, and it takes them months to build it. It takes
What do
about
they build it out of?
It's just tiny little houses.
It's like
that
a
they-
little village
Yeah.
in
And they just-
miniature that they've kept over years, and it's down in a temperature-controlled area,
Yeah.
and it's huge, and you can see an old Salem
Yeah. It's
in
just-
miniature.
And it's got little lights in it and everything, and it's got
just
like a
didn't
little
know
water
that.
wheel that
Christmassy,
spins.
and the house itself is
Beautiful.
back in time. Everyone's dressed in the costume. The lighting, if you go at nighttime, I went nighttime the first year. I'm going daytime this year. Is kind of dim, and they're telling you stories, and you sit and sing with the organ a couple Christmas carols, and you're in small little groups, and it's like an active, interactive tour throughout the house and throughout the history. And there's a creche room. I call it a creche. So the nativities are set out, and you'll hear the Christmas story read. Very simple. This is a way to have a true, simple Moravian Christmas condensed in
Yeah.
a small time frame. Children love it. Adults love it. It's heartwarming. That's how I would put it. It's a heartwarming experience.
I love that. Now, I have a question there. Sabrina, if only 1% of Germans can read, are you a 1% American?
I am a 1%er. I'm a 1%er. So I learned how to read and write in the German script whenever I first started this job. So I went to the
my
Northern
mind's
Province Archives. Yeah, it's really difficult. So it's
That sounded easy.
it's something that you definitely have to work with. It is not like riding a bicycle. You have to practice it all the time. Even when Darla, I've asked her before, I'm like, I've transcribed this, but I don't know what this word means. Like, what could this word possibly mean? We're like, butter knife, maybe?
Crumb knife.
Crumb knife. We're like, okay, this
Schneider.
makes sense. But yeah, it's one of those weird things. So it's very similar to, there's like the German black letter. So if you're familiar with like medieval type scripts, that's kind of the start of this. Then there's handwritten scripts like Fracture, current script. Those go into a more almost like Roman secretary script in some ways, like what we're used to learning how to write in cursive if you learned before like 2000. But these are things that it's very difficult based on who's the person that is writing this, because some people have excellent handwriting. And then other people look like they were riding it on the buckboard of a wagon, and
They might have been.
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
They really might have
Questionable.
been. That's so impressive. I just want to say that is just so impressive, and I'm so grateful that this town has taken it so seriously as to impart that wisdom. Hopefully, there are others that are coming alongside of you that are doing the same thing, so that there's a continuance here. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 80% of our archival material that is pre-20th century, really like pre-1850, is in this German script. So it's actually very necessary for someone to be able to read it, to work in our archives, to be able to transcribe that for people. A lot of the things that have been translated, so there's the records of the Moravians in North Carolina, which is a 13-volume series started by Adelaide Fries, the first archivist. That's transcriptions and translations into English from the Congregational Diary. So it's literally every day what was happening. And sometimes it's important. It's like, Captain Armstrong brought the Declaration of Independence on August 6th.
Stop.
But then sometimes it's like, we've seen a miracle today, and the sky lit up in a very weird way. And then the next day, it's like, we've found out that these are the Northern Lights. Or Brother John fell off the roof and broke his leg. So there's different things where it's really insightful to what's happened.
Yeah.
You then can look at it and be like, oh, we're having magnetic storms where we're seeing northern lights more
We
recently.
are.
This was more common back then. And then you can look at scientific records and they're like, no, this was a solar storm that happened that affected people as far south as Mexico. I'm like, which is just crazy that it happened in like 1780. And these people, could you imagine if you'd never been able to watch the
No.
Discovery
Like,
Channel
what's
to see what the
happening?
northern
Yes.
lights are?
Yes.
And you like walk outside and you're like, God is coming for
Yeah.
us.
Right
like,
now.
it's happening.
Get ready.
It's happening.
Literally, I couldn't
Brush your
imagine what
teeth.
that would be like. Yeah, brush your teeth. And like also the wolves are outside, because the wolves and the buffalo are everywhere. And it's also really insightful for how indigenous people were treated, about the different wars that were happening, about how enslaved people were treated here. It's a very fascinating set of documents and records that we have that we're really trying to showcase more and allow more people in to see. That's why we're doing these vault tours, not only of our things, but also the wonderful music collections that are here too, so that we could share
Yeah.
those with the public. It's not just
Yeah.
the archives.
I mean, I love that though. Now let's go to music because that's your thing.
Yes.
Yes.
The footprint of the building underneath the beautiful building that we share with the foundation is where all the archives are. So we have archives as well, but it's musical archives. So the foundation, the footprint of the building we share, and it's temperature controlled, humidity controlled, literally vault door kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's a treasure that not many people know about. To get a tour of this, which Christmas Fest you can get tours, there are original works, like an original Star Spangled Banner is under there, original Haydn creation. There's original string quartets. The Moravians, or a Moravian, wrote the first string quartet ever produced in North America. It's in there. There are things there that are literally priceless. And that's one aspect. We're part museum. We're part school. We have classes that are free to the public, even almost college level, but students can come and learn about students, retirees, anyone, homeschool students. They're free classes on music theory, music history. They're offered during the day at the Music Foundation. You just go on our website and you can sign up for them. We have, in the spirit of the Moravians, giving for free.
Oh, right.
We have band lessons. Anyone can join. They'll even help you find an instrument, and they'll teach you an instrument. My daughter's a part of that. There are adults in that who've never touched an instrument, who've always wanted to do that. You go to our website, we'll help you figure that out. So there's a lot of giving. So we educate, we inspire.
I saw that in your bio, and I actually wrote that down. To educate is great, but also to inspire and to teach.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm
great.
inspired just sitting over
I
here.
am too.
And I am so proud of this city that we live in.
Yeah, I love it, and I think, and I have this nerd side in me,
No.
and I don't talk a whole lot. Just like
Couple nerds
you're
here.
talking about all this archive and history and the music and these documents and all of this stuff that's there. I remember one time I read the biography of Benjamin Franklin. You appreciate that up in Boston, and like, man, and I was up that way one day. I wanted to go see where he was buried, and I did. And I went and took a picture of it, and I saw it, and I went and saw some things he did in that town, and I was impressed with that.
Well, to that point,
Yeah.
there were presidents, or at least one president, right?
Yeah. Well, we had multiple.
Multiple that came to Old Salem.
Oh, they
Yes.
were so inspired
Yeah.
that Moravians would teach girls. Moravians have always elevated women.
Really?
From the early days, there was even a female, pretty much a bishop in the very early days. So they've always elevated women and treated them very much as equals and educated them. And they saw it as a model. They were very curious. I forget which president that was. It might have.
I feel like
One
it
of
was
them
an
came.
Adams.
So John Adams.
I
yeah.
thought so.
Well done.
Go me.
So-
my last
Show
name.
off.
My last
Well
name's
done.
Adams.
So we have George Washington comes to visit Salem on his southern tour. So that's in 1791. He stays 2 nights with his horse Prescott. I love to throw the horse in. We're horse girls.
We're
so,
horse girls,
So he comes to visit. He does come to visit, and he wants to see the education system there. He is very interested by that. He's also very interested in the waterworks system. So there was running water in
Yes.
Salem.
And he was fascinating because I went and saw his stuff too, and I was blown away at just his interest in technology at
Yes.
that time, and it's like, oh my word,
What
he
a
So
good
figured
the
all this stuff
water,
out.
the water system, just
So
to
that's
get
where he's getting some of this.
Yeah.
He
context.
come in here.
I mean, and it's still there today.
You could still go pump the
Pump the
water.
well.
Yeah, if you go on a field trip, you had to do it. I feel
Yeah,
like it's like
we
a rite of
did.
passage. So what is now Salem Parkway, the bridge that's coming across on Main Street that you pass by the coffee pot and everything. At that time, right around there, it was an aqueduct that went from a spring, kind of roughly around like, I would say maybe 3rd, 4th Street area.
Okay.
There's a spring there. So this aqueduct is bringing water in. It's wooden water pipes. We actually just donated one of those original wooden water pipes from like 1780 something to Old Salem because it was in our archive. And I was like, I'm going to break
Why
this
isn't this
somehow.
a documentary show like on Discovery?
There's so much
There's
there.
some.
We actually have a Benjamin Franklin pamphlet as well that
Wow.
people get to see that he printed himself off of his printing
You didn't
press
notice
off
us
of
here,
Market
did you?
Street.
I didn't. I knew some of it.
That's
Handwritten
part of
letters.
why we're doing Christmas Fest.
I know. I
To
love
engage. So the Moravian Music Foundation, we inspire, engage, and educate.
Yeah, that was the other word.
And the
yeah.
engage, this is part of the engagement to
Yeah.
bring people in to see, we want to give, but there's so much here that has just been quiet,
It
sitting
is
in this beautiful
quiet.
building.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be like that. So I love the horn that's right here. So
Yeah.
we're gonna blow some horns
French
about
Yeah.
the Christmas Fest here
Thank you.
and the Moravian Music Foundation. Everybody needs to come out and take part of this. Whatever. And yes, it is a free event, but for some of those specialty things that we've talked about, you do need some sort of ticket too. So is that like
Candle
the
tea.
candle tea?
Candle tea is through Old Salem. You need a ticket for that, and you
Okay.
can purchase those online.
Okay.
Christmas Fest itself, you do not need any tickets for. For the vault tours, you just sign up as you come.
Okay.
So we do those at the
Free.
top of every hour. It's free. We just limit how many people are allowed in at once. So
Okay.
if we need to add in a couple more tours, last year I ended up doing a tour for like 3 people at the very end. They were like, please let me see. I was like, I am very tired, but yes, we will go see.
Hand me a Red Bull.
Yeah.
And yes.
One more
Bring a
Red
Red Bull.
Bull and some Glühwein.
Glühwein.
You can't bring it in the vault, but you could have it outside.
So, moving forward, what do both of you want to see moving forward after this particular event? What is your mission, Darla, as far as what you're here to do?
For the foundation,
Yes, the foundation.
I want people to support it, not just financially, but to come to the concerts that we are putting on, to come to the classes, to take advantage. It's not just for the Moravians. The Moravians love we won't call them strangers anymore. It has a negative connotation, but we are very open people. This is a treasure within our city. We are not trying to hold on to everything. We're trying to share it.
Beautiful.
And by sharing it, you do preserve it, and it is moving forward. We have modern composers. I love for universities to start doing more of the Moravian music. There are concerts being held in Arizona and all the things. But we would love for our own community to embrace it even more and to call it their own. And that is our goal. We want to inspire, and we want to engage the people, and we also want to educate. People can take advantage of all these things. They just don't know that they're there.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what a big, wonderful Christmas party. Let's celebrate this together. Let's be together. We're a research facility for universities. I mean, she is very well aware of that, as are we. People will come in, students, and they'll write, work on their dissertations. We have a lending library. We're very much online. We have a Gemeincat. It's a big catalog that's online. There's so many things to avail yourself of at different universities. We just need to engage and let more people know we're
Okay.
here. We're yours. We're a treasure. We're your treasure in the city. And we would love for you to own it with us and take it
Yeah.
forward into the next 500 years
Well,
and
I'm
keep it alive.
inspired. So
I think she's passionate about what she does.
I am. I think she is too.
Yeah, I do love
But
it.
and it's funny to me though. I think that it's just always been a special place to me, and I didn't know all of the things. I knew some of the things, but I didn't know all the things. But I legitimately have gotten 2 or 3 families to move here that were my family's in the way that I did it. I'm like, you've got to go see Old Salem. So let's
Yes,
go walk around. And, there's not many cities and towns anymore that have this preservation and this place that from one street to the next, you can literally
Living.
go back in time.
Yes.
And you can look at the gardens that they're still
Yes,
maintaining and the grounds that are being maintained and all of the things and like they're devoted
Yes.
to that, and it gives you a pride and respect for what they have done in the past and what you're continuing on to do, because the story is not over.
No. The
Right.
Moravians are alive and well.
Yeah.
New compositions coming out all the time. Disaster relief or also service, or we do
Okay.
some. For example, by the time this airs, we will have done a Western North Carolina Singstunde. It's called. It's another German word, singing hour, in Old Salem, in the Visitors Center, with the 1800s Tannenberg organ, raising money for a Winston-Salem organization, Second Harvest. So we're able to
Food
take this
bank.
beautiful Moravian tradition, we're infusing it with a couple new things. I'm using a North Carolina poem in this service, a prayer, and it's going to be old hymns interspersed. It's an old setting with new meaning, serving this very current modern day purpose. So at the Moravian Music Foundation, we're blending the old and the new for the current culture and what needs come up. And so that's the kind of another example of how we're keeping things alive and holding on to the past at the same
So
time.
both of your
Right.
names are really going down in history.
Wow, Sabrina. That feels,
Like,
That sounds so serious.
I feel
it sounds, but it's so true. I'm not just saying that. That's not just an accolade. Like, no.
I have a serious job, but I'm an unserious person.
the same thing. I'm thinking.
But yeah, but
I mean, it's true.
I think it's great too. You get to do something you love, and you're
Yes.
preserving something that's so important, and you're looking forward to carry that that information, that culture
Yes.
forward in such a wonderful way. So I absolutely love that, and I
do
think it's
too.
great. You both have that opportunity, and you love it, and you're passionate about
It's a
it, and that's the kind of leaders you need in those positions.
So we want
Absolutely.
to just again tell our listeners and our viewers, we'll put it up on the screen. It's here for us, but come to the Christmas Fest and the holiday market Saturday, December 14th from 10 to 5, completely free. There's vendors, there's food, there's Moravian chicken pie. If you do not know what that is and you live anywhere in the Triad, the state, 2 states away, 5 states away, share this podcast and make plans to come and to visit this really historic and quaint kind of thing. In October or November, I think they have the Renaissance festivals and all that stuff. And this is so much more quaint and
Authentic.
It's authentic, good
Yeah.
word.
and cultured and just so those of you who are interested in that kind of thing, I think this is also a great day for you to visit here. And I just want to say thank you so much, and hopefully we haven't missed anything. If we have, please tell me.
Parking.
Parking.
Okay,
yes.
tell us about that.
So to
Lots.
get to our building, the best way to go is to use the address 412 Rams Drive.
Okay.
There is going to be parking, particularly for those who are elderly, who need handicap spaces. There are going to be spaces very close. However, parking is going to be crazy. Old Salem is super packed this weekend. So there's going to be parking all around Salem College. There's going to be plenty of directionals. But if you do need to valet someone who's older, feel free to pull all the way down. If you do need to park down there because you yourself cannot walk that far, please know that we will have reserved parking for people.
Yes. 412 Rams Drive. You can put it in
412
your
Rams Drive.
GPS.
Okay.
Or and there's also the Elberson Fine Arts Center, which is where all of these
Yes.
musical performances are going to be happening. So that
It
is
has
the
a pretty
address.
good parking lot.
It's a very large parking
Yeah.
lot, and Salem College has a lot of parking
Yeah.
around it as well. And then in terms of just other good things to know, get there early. If you want to have tickets to Candle Tea, buy those in advance because those will be selling out soon. And if you can't make it for Christmas Fest this year,
Just
come next year. But also we do different events throughout the year. So we have lectures, we have different musical performances. I do bookbinding workshops and vault tours throughout the year as well. So there's a lot of neat things that you can use to get involved, and other institutions that we are affiliated with that we do work with that you can come and visit too if you can't miss it. But you should really try and make it.
You should really
try and
It's
make
a
it.
treasure.
Yes, it is. Well, I really am grateful. The train's coming by right now,
Yes.
which that's historic too. This
Exactly.
is a
It's just letting
you
us
know,
know it's time to be done.
1890, 1900 something building that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful historic building.
Yeah, it is. It's
It is.
great. I don't think it has a list of archives, but yeah, it's had its our archives are now going to be living.
Yes.
And here we have stories. But yes, thank you so much for coming and taking your time with us in our little podcast. And I hope that we spread it everywhere. As soon as you get it, I want you guys to just listen. This is what you need to do. So look up all the things. And as far as Legacy, you can find Legacy Podcast Studio on all the social medias, the YouTube, follow, like, subscribe. Please give us feedback. If you have things that you want us to dive into, we want to. We're a small business leaders podcast, but we definitely,
We love our community.
We love our
and I can't say
community.
that word, but we
You
love our
just-
community.
just twice. Yes, he says it all the time.
I do. 'Cause
But
I
we would
it.
love for you to come on this platform and share your story with us too, because like today, I mean, we just learned about George Washington and
Ben Franklin.
John Adams and like the things you just wouldn't think you would learn on something like this. It's so rich in history, our Triad, and we want to show how much we love our cities, the Triad. So with that, we say we'll see you next time.
Next time.
You guys are awesome.
That was